My name is Adam. I'm one of the pastors here, and I just want to say thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. It really means a lot. Thank you for being a part of this Good Friday service. This is a very sacred day for us in the faith. I would call it the second most important day of our faith. That's because the most important day is coming up on Sunday. And so tonight we are so excited to share this moment with you, and I want to open up with some scripture that's going to be very relevant to what we're going to do tonight, because it's going to be a little different than maybe something you're used to. In Matthew chapter 27, verse 15, it says, "Now at the feast, the governor was accustomed to release for the crowd any one prisoner whom they wanted. And they had then a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when they had gathered, Pilate said to them, 'Whom do you want me to release for you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?' For he knew that it was out of envy that they had delivered Jesus up. Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus. The governor again said to them, 'Which of the two do you want me to release for you?' And they said, 'Barabbas.' Pilate said to them, 'Then what shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ?' They all said, 'Let him be crucified.' And he said, 'Why? What evil has he done?' But they shouted all the more, 'Let him be crucified.'" So here we have the story of Jesus going to the cross, and everything seems to be going hand in hand. And then there's this character who seems to interrupt the narrative. His name's Barabbas. And I don't really know why Barabbas is even here. I don't understand the point. This isn't about Barabbas. This is about Jesus going to the cross. And so here we have Pilate on this audacious stage. And in this moment, he gives to the people two choices. Do you want Barabbas or do you want Jesus? Now this is blasphemy. This has gone too far. There is no comparison between these two men. Barabbas is an insurrectionist. He is a rebel and he is a murderer. He has done nothing but hurt people. But Jesus? What has Jesus done? Except love people, deliver people, heal people. Barabbas says, "Who do you want? Do you want Jesus or do you want Barabbas?" And the crowd says, "Give us Barabbas." And so Pilate tells the guards to unlock the chains, and Barabbas walks off the platform and into the crowd, and there Jesus stands silent. Because Jesus knew the will of the Father. He knew that God would have to treat Jesus like Barabbas, so God could treat Barabbas like Jesus. See, it's easy to think that the people set Barabbas free. No. It was the love of a father that set Barabbas free. Historically, we don't know what happens to Barabbas after this. He seems to disappear from the pages of Scripture. I wonder what happens next. Does he just walk into the crowd and walk away from this free gift that he's been given by Jesus? Or maybe he stays. Maybe he stays and he watches the events take place, the events that were meant for him. Now, thankfully, tonight, I've got the luxury of history. Because we don't know, I can make it up. And so that's what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to tell a story. And here in a second, I'm going to pray, and I'm going to step into this character, and it's my hope that as you hear his story, that maybe you find yourself in him. But regardless, my hope tonight is that we all get to feel the impact of the love of a father who would send his son to save the world. I'll pray for us. God, I just thank you so much for this moment. God, I thank you for the words that we've sung. I thank you for the truth of your word. And that right now that you would increase, that I would decrease, and that you would take over this moment. We would step into your world and you would show us who you are. We say these things in your name, Jesus. Amen. Well, hey, ma'am, I just want to thank you so much for buying the table and chairs today. No, seriously, ma'am, I appreciate it. You didn't have to pay what you paid, but you did. really means a lot to us at the shop. And hey, hope you have a good day. Don't forget to tell all your friends about us. You know, Mr. B's chairs are what? That's right, the best this side of the Jordan. You got it. Yes. And we're closed. All right. Not bad, not bad. We sold a couple tables and chairs and a couple sets of those, and that's enough to put some groceries on the table and a little extra. I'm feeling pretty good about this week. And oh, hey, buddy. Hey, I'm sorry, man. I just flipped the closed sign. We're actually closed right now, man. If you don't mind, tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, we're open. Come on in, and I can help you out with anything that you want. All right, man? We'll see you later. What was that? You're looking for Barabbas? Well, listen, man. We haven't heard that name around here in a long time. So if you're looking for Barabbas, that either means you're looking for trouble, which I got to tell you, that's not a part of his life anymore, or that means you're looking for something else. So if you're looking for something else, I got to ask, man, who sent you? Peter? Peter sent you? Oh, man, so you are looking for something else. All right. Well, judging by the look of what you're wearing, let me guess, lawyer? Doctor. Okay. Well, if you're a doctor, then judging by the gossip of my neighbors, and they're always right about who's in town, you're Luke, right? Yeah, man, we've been hearing about you. So you're this guy walking around asking all these questions about Jesus, right? Trying to get the backstory. Listen, man, if you got a problem with Jesus, then you're gonna have a problem with me, and you should probably just walk out of my store right now. Oh, you don't have a problem with Jesus. You just want the truth. Okay, man, the truth. But here's the problem, man. The truth costs money. And if you want the truth, you want my story about Jesus, you're gonna have to buy this set of table and chairs that I've been trying to get rid of for like a month, man. I can't even give this away. You're gonna have to pay full price. Yeah, that's right. I know you can afford it. You're gonna have to pay full price. And then I'll tell you everything I know. We got a deal? Deal. So yeah, I don't go by Barabbas anymore. When you commit a bunch of crimes, it makes it hard to make an honest living. And so I changed my name to Mr. B, but I didn't always used to do this kind of stuff. This is what my dad did, and this is what his dad did, and I just knew that when I got old enough, I didn't want to do this stuff anymore. So the first chance I got out of town. And I was young, and I was idealistic. And when you're young and when you're idealistic, it can get really dangerous because if you get with the wrong people, you get into the wrong things. I actually thought that maybe I could change the world. I didn't really change anything. Ended up, I just got with a bunch of people that just hated the Romans. Listen, man, Rome was the worst. They came in here and took everything from us, so I spent the majority of my life trying to take from them. And before I knew it, I was a part of this insurrection, and we were always trying to disrupt the system. And I wish I could tell you I was a good guy fighting bad guys, but I just became a bad guy doing whatever I wanted to do. And when that becomes your life, it always ends in the same place. And I've been arrested a couple times before, but I always seem to figure out how to get myself out of the situations I was in. But this weekend was different. It was Passover weekend in Jerusalem. And Thursday night, me and the boys got into it, and a couple soldiers were killed. Now, I didn't put them down, man. I didn't put those soldiers down, but I was the one that they got. And when they figured out who I was, it was over. So it's Friday morning. It's Friday morning, and I'm sitting there in my jail cell. It's like 6 o'clock. I'm barely awake. And all I can hear is this loud commotion outside the jail cell. And there's this crowd that has been gathering, and they're heading towards Pilate. And they're led by all these religious leaders. And apparently in the middle of the night, they took this man named Jesus and they put him through some kind of illegal trial. Apparently he had been doing some things that made these religious leaders upset. And they wanted to kill him, like straight up kill him. But they couldn't. Something to do with their laws and their rules. And so they wanted Pilate and the Romans to kill him. Now listen, Pilate, man, he knew what was up. He knew that they were just trying to get to Jesus, and he knew Jesus didn't deserve to die. Even I knew Jesus didn't deserve to die. And honestly, I didn't even know who he was. I mean, I just kind of heard about this guy named Jesus, but to die for something, I mean, that's a lot. So Pilate, he knew he had a loophole. He knew that on Passover, it was custom to release a prisoner to the crowd. So there it was. That's the way you get out of it. Jesus, the good guy, somebody doesn't deserve the kind of things they want to do to him against me. I've done some things, man. And so Barabbas stood in front of the crowd and he asked, who do you want? Barabbas or do you want Jesus? Now, I couldn't hear any of that. And the crowd was so loud, all I could hear was them. So I didn't hear the question that he asked, but I heard the answer. I heard when he said, who do you want, Barabbas or Jesus? I heard the crowd shout, give us Barabbas, give us Barabbas, give us Barabbas. I gotta be honest, man, for a second, I was like, hey, that's me. But when you got a crowd that's angry and they're calling out your name, it can't be good. And the next two words that they spoke sent chills into my soul. Because then Pilate approached the crowd and he says, then what would you have me do with Jesus? Now, I couldn't hear any of that, but what I heard next was this. Crucify him, crucify him, crucify him. So all I can hear in the jail cell is, give us Barabbas and crucify him. Give us Barabbas and crucify him. And I gotta tell you, in that moment, I didn't have any time to think. Just about the time I'm trying to wrap my mind around what I'm hearing, I can hear the door down the hallway. I can hear it open up, and I can hear the sound of the footsteps of the Roman soldiers. I know that they're coming for me, and I'm in that jail cell. And listen, I'm not alone. There was actually two other guys with me, these two thieves. There was one guy, and he was like, man, just so angry and so defiant. And then there was another guy sitting in the corner, and he was kind of balled up and crying. And I just knew one thing. I knew this. If they were coming for me, I wasn't going to be like that. I was gonna fight my way out of this. So I watched as the Roman soldiers approached the door and they unlocked it and they opened it and they were coming for me. And I got my fist ready and I went to take a swing and boom, kick right to the gut. Every ounce of air left my body. And by the time oxygen started to come to my brain, I was already cuffed and they were dragging my body into the mob. Now it was early and the sun was starting to pierce through, and from the darkness of the cell to the brightness of the day, I couldn't see anything, and all I could feel was the crowd pressed on top of me, and all I could hear over and over again is crucify him, crucify him, crucify him. Now listen, I've never ever seen a crucifixion, but I've heard all about it. If you want to kill a man in the worst way possible, you crucify him. It begins by breaking your body, by beating you. And then they tear apart your flesh by whipping you. And then they nail you to a cross in which you suffocate and die. I don't even have any moment to even begin to understand what is happening. It's all too fast as the light is starting to come into my eyes and I can hear the crowd yell, crucify him, and I'm trying to get air into my lungs. I don't even see what's happening. The guard is starting to unlock my chains and he's saying something to me and I can't make sense of anything because it's so crazy. And as he's unlocking my chains, he's saying, you're free. And he's saying, you're free. And I can't hear him and he grabs me by the chest and he goes, can't you hear me? You're free. And I look down at my hands and the chains are gone. And I go, what? What do you mean I'm free? And he grabs my face and he puts it up towards, and that's when I see him for the first time. It's Jesus. He says, you see that man right there? That man is taking your place. I gotta be honest, at first I was like, oh, I did it again. I don't know how I do it. I always get out of these situations and here I am again, dodging a big one. And I start to turn around and I start to walk into the crowd and something tells me to stop. Like I need to watch what's about to happen. I mean, I never seen a crucifixion before. I don't really know how this stuff plays out, but I thought, you know what? It could have been me. So why not see what this thing's all about? And in that moment, it all just started happening so fast. I mean, as quickly as I was released, that's how quickly they were moving Jesus. So the guards, they grabbed him, they walked him down the steps, and they walked around the pathway, and the mob just starts pressing in. Everybody is now following the soldiers and Jesus. And as we cross around the corner, I can see towards this slope, there's this huge, wide open pavilion. And then in the middle of the pavilion, there stands this big wooden post. I've never seen anything like this. And as I'm pressing in, I'm kind of talking to myself, and I'm like, what is that? And there's a guy beside me. He goes, man, you ain't never seen a flogging post before? Like, no. What's a flogging post? He goes, man, word of advice, don't get too close. You get too close, the blood gets all over you. The what? The blood gets, and before I can even understand what he's saying, I can see the soldiers, and they've got Jesus, and they bring him and they throw him down. It's the first time I can really see him. And you can look at his face, and you can see where they beat him all night, and you can see bruising, and you can see swelling, but I remember I could see his eyes. And listen, man, I'm not trying to be weird or anything. I've seen a lot of people, and there was something different about his eyes. He wasn't like the guys in the prison cell. He wasn't angry and he wasn't sad. It was like he was determined. The look in his eyes said that this moment that was happening right now, like he was choosing to walk into that moment. And as I'm watching him, in a matter of seconds, I hear a commotion, and all the guards stand at attention. Because out from the back walks the captain. Now the captain, he's the one responsible for the crucifixion. It's his job to make sure that the prisoner is not just beat to within an inch of his life, but he makes it to the cross. Because if you don't make it to the cross, it's a dishonor. So there Jesus was on his knees, and I watched as the captain circled Jesus. He just looked at him up and down. He circled him like a predator would circle its prey. And then he got right beside Jesus, grabbed a handful of hair, jerked him back, and goes, Jesus, you will curse the day that you were born. Look at me. Boy, look at me. Before this day's over, you will plead for death. Boys, get him ready. And at that cue, 4 soldiers began beating Jesus. The first soldier comes up, kick right to the gut, knocks the air completely out of Jesus. You can feel it leave his body. And as Jesus was laying with his hands on the ground, the next soldier comes up, puts his foot on his face and steps it into the ground, and then they just rip into Jesus. All the while spitting on his body. And with every kick and every punch, you could feel it. Now listen, man, I've been in a lot of fights. Never felt someone get hit like that. Then the captain goes, enough. Enough. All right. Time to the pole. So they drag Jesus over to this wooden post. They rip off his clothes, exposing his naked body to everybody there. And at the top of this post, there's a chain, and they attach him to the top of the post, and they tie his arms on real tight. And I watch the captain as he comes back to Jesus, just circles him again. And then I watch Jesus. He starts to press up. Look at his eyes. There it is again. It's this determination, as if what's about to happen is happening for a reason. If about every whip that's about to hit across his back is going to be hit for a reason, and I watch as he puts his hands together. he starts to pray. And man, I'm telling you, I'm thinking, man, you better start to pray because this looks like this thing's about to get bad. And you could tell that it angered the captain. The captain grabbed him by the hair again. He goes, you think you're so strong, Jesus? Let's see how strong you are. Brutus. And he calls over to one of the soldiers, and out walks this man who, I gotta be honest with you, I've never seen anybody who's had arms as big as this guy. Come to find out, this guy named Brutus, this is his sole job. His entire job for the Romans is to do nothing but whip people. That's all he does. And so I watch him as he walks across this table and he puts his fingers over top the handles of these whips. I would soon discover that these whips were made of these multiple strands of leather, and embedded in these strands of leather were pieces of bone and rock glued together with the blood of the past victims. And when a soldier whips a criminal, those little pieces attach to the flesh. And when those arms rip back, it tears the back up like a piece of fabric. So Brutus looks for the right tool like a butcher, finds the one. And he looks over at the captain. Captain points to the back of Jesus. Brutus steps back. He begins to fillet Jesus. Every strike tears his flesh to pieces. I've never seen anything like that in my life. Blood and skin everywhere. And every time Brutus laid into the back of Jesus, the pieces of bone and rock grabbed a hold of chunks of flesh and just tore him apart. So Brutus methodically worked up the top and went all the way down. And then he came over on the other side. At some point, the crowd actually gasps. It's like we don't know what to do with what they're seeing, because apparently when you're a Jew and you whip a Jew, you only do it like 39 times. There's some weird rule about 40 times, but these are Romans. They don't care about rules. They just whip you until they think that you're about to die. And at one point, thankfully, this captain, he goes, enough, enough, enough. Save some energy for the cross, boys. And you can see Brutus, and he stops, and he's panting. This Roman soldier, all he does is whip people, is panting, and he's shaking because of how bad and how violently he's been beating Jesus. And I don't even know what I'm looking anymore because he doesn't look like Jesus. He is mortally wounded. He is bleeding profusely from his back. And he's just hanging there. I honestly thought he was dead. I only knew he was alive because I could see his chest rise when he breathed, and I could hear him wheezing. I mean, surely this is over. They're done with him. And the captain, because he was so angry by Jesus' behavior, he said, boys, take him off. So the soldiers unleash Jesus' chains, and they throw him down on the ground, his bare exposed back, sitting in the dirt and the clay. And then the captain starts to make fun of him. Word on the street is this is the king. King of the Jews? Well, then let's get the king a crown. Bring out the crown. And from the back, you can see a soldier, and he's weaving together painfully this crown of thorns. I'm not talking about thorns from a bush. I'm talking about Jerusalem thorns. This long, thick as nails. They're so sharp that the soldier's hands are wrapped and bloodied in bandages as he's weaving them. And the captain says, put the crown on the king. And they lift Jesus up by his arms, and he's on his knees, and he's just sitting there, lifeless. And the captain grabs his face and he holds it like this. And the other soldier comes in and he presses the crown of thorns into the skull of Jesus, and it's hurting Jesus and it's hurting the soldier. He's getting back because it's so sharp on his hands, and the captain pushes him away and goes, no, where is it? And he grabs a stick and he goes, make sure it sticks. And he grabs Jesus' head and he beats the crown of thorns into his skull. He's a king, right? Well, where's the robe? Bring the robe. And they bring out this blanket. It's dirty, filthy, and it's rough. They throw it onto the back of Jesus and press it into his open wounds, and they push him onto the ground. And the captain goes, boys, he's a king. Worship the king. When a soldier walks up and he gets on his knees and he goes, oh, Jesus, precious king, slaps him across the face. And then the soldiers beat him again. They come in and they step in, and then at some point, like it just gets out of control. I actually watched the soldier walk up to Jesus, pull up his face, yank out pieces of his beard. And the captain, he had to actually step in, boys, that is enough. Got to make it to the cross. Bring out the cross. Like, I'm trying to process this whole thing. I'm trying to figure out what it is I'm seeing, and I'm trying to figure out why I even care. I don't know who Jesus is. I shouldn't care about this moment. If anything, I should be relieved it's not me, but for whatever reason, my heart is tied to this. And I watch as they bring out this cross and they throw it down, and it lands right by Jesus' face. The captain says, all right, Jesus, let's go. Maybe of all the things about a crucifixion, this has to be the most humiliating. The fact that the very thing that's going to kill you is the thing that you have to carry. So the soldiers grabbed their whips. This time they were different. They didn't have any of the metal pieces and bone, but they were still made of leather. They still opened wounds every time they struck his skin, and they started whipping him. Come on, Jesus, up, get up. And I watched. It's Jesus. And I don't know how he did this. He grabs a hold of the cross. He puts it on his back. And he starts to walk. And it's nuts, right? Because Jerusalem is packed right now. Not only is the mob still here, but there's everybody celebrating Passover. The streets are so full that the soldiers are whipping people to try to clear a path to get Jesus to the top of the hill because he's dying. He's bleeding out. And it's insane because you can actually listen in the background. You can hear the sound of lambs being purchased and slaughtered by the Jews because it's Passover and they sacrifice these lambs for the forgiveness of their sins. Little did we all know, right in front of us was the lamb, and he was being slaughtered for all of us. They beat Jesus so bad that he couldn't barely carry his cross, and sure enough, 100 feet in, he falls. And as he falls, that wood presses into his skull. And it presses the crown of thorns into his face, into the ground. And this made the captain and the soldiers very angry. Nope, Jesus, you're not dying here. Get up. Get up, Jesus. Get up, Jesus. And I watched. It's like, wow, what is going on with Jesus? Why don't you just die? What are you trying to accomplish? Just die. But no, he gets up. He starts to carry the cross again. It didn't last. A couple 100 feet, he falls again. Face first into the ground, cross on top of his head. Soldiers start beating on him to get up, and it's bad enough that this is happening. It's bad enough that the soldiers are mocking him and spitting on his body, but the whole crowd's getting into it. They're throwing trash at him. A week earlier, this same group of people were lining the streets, waving palm branches, calling him Messiah. Now they want his blood. Jesus got back up. He made it a little farther, then he fell again. I felt like he's dead. We're not just watching him die. He's dead. There's no way you get back up. And so the captain, he is irate because you can't let someone die before they get to the cross. He's like, get him up. And one of the other soldiers was bold enough to look at the captain and said, sir, if he carries this alone, he dies. He's not gonna make it. Captain's like, all right. He's looking around the crowd and he finds this guy. Later to find out this guy's name's Simon. He grabs him by the chest. He goes, you, and he throws him right at the feet of Jesus. He goes, you pick up the cross with Jesus. And Simon, he gets up. He's like, hey, listen, I'm just here for Passover. I don't want anything to do with this man. And the captain grabs him by the chest. He goes, either you help him carry the cross or I'll nail you beside him. So this guy, Simon, gets beside Jesus and they both pick up the cross and they carry it to the top of the hill. When Jesus gets there, he completely collapses, barely breathing. Now, the other two thieves, they were already up there and they were getting nailed to the cross, and I remember seeing them fight. I remember watching one of the soldiers as he was trying to get the thief's arm down to nail the arm to the cross. He had to actually put his knee in the crook of his arm and he pressed it down and they nailed his hands into the cross, and they did that with both the thieves. But then when I looked at Jesus, I saw something that I don't even know how to describe it to you. I watched Jesus as he laid on the ground. The cross was right over here, and I watched as he crawled. He crawled over to the cross and he grabbed a hold of it. And he clung to the cross. Like, I'm telling you, he clung to the cross. It's as if the cross for him brought comfort. As if his whole life was meant to end on this cross. I don't understand it. He embraced the cross. It was so strange to me. And I wasn't the only one that saw it. The captain saw it. And the captain looked over and he watched and he goes, boys, look at this. What did I tell you? I told you he would plead for death. But I'm telling you, he wasn't pleading for it. He was fighting for something. And then it came time to nail his hands to the cross. And he didn't fight it. He just opened up his arms. And I watched and listened as the soldiers grabbed his hands and they nailed him to the cross. And they grabbed his other hand. And they crossed his feet. Grabbed Jesus. They hoisted him up, and there was this square hole dug into the ground. And as they pressed the cross into the hole, his hands, which were now attached, when the cross fell into the hole, his body violently dropped. This is where you die. There's only one way to last on the cross. You have to press into the nails in your hands and your feet, and you have to push into them, and you have to rub your open, exposed back on the cross. And as you raise up, you're able to breathe. Because the moment you don't hold that and you fall down, your body starts to suffocate itself. So I sat there for an hour, and I watched Jesus fight. this whole time, he never says one word. Like, I couldn't get that out of my head. How do you not say anything? Like the one thief, man, he was just cursing the whole time, spitting on people and cursing people. And the other thief, he was just crying the whole time, but Jesus doesn't say anything. Nothing. Like, that's either incredible strength or incredible foolishness. And at this point, I don't know what to make about Jesus. And it's about that moment that the religious leaders came in. It was the same religious leaders that put Jesus in this position to die. And as the religious leaders came in, they looked up at Jesus and they started mocking him as he died. Come on, Jesus. You said you were the king, the Son of God. If you are that, the Messiah, get yourself off the cross right now. Come on, Jesus, we're waiting. We're waiting. And it was as if that moment infused the rest of the crowd, and the mob started up again, cursing him and mocking him. And I'm just watching thinking, what is wrong with you guys? He's dying. He has more than paid a price he shouldn't have paid. Let the man be alone. And in that moment, something starts to change in my heart. It's like, I just want Jesus to die because I just want it to be over for him. And then I see Jesus start to grip down on the nails, and I could tell he's not coming up for air. He's coming up for words. And I'm like, this is it. This is it. That's it, Jesus. You tell him, Jesus. You curse them. You spit on them. You get everything out. Here, I haven't heard you say anything all day. This is going to be incredible. And as he presses into the nails and he lifts up, he goes, Father. And he looks at them all. He said, forgive them. And they know not what they do. Forgive them? Forgive these people that are responsible, their acts are responsible for your death. And you would look at all these people, these filthy, broken people, and you would forgive them? Who does that? Who loves like that? Who treats people like that? And then it was like something shifted in the crowd. There were people that started showing up that weren't there earlier. And instead of words of hate, I heard words of love. There were people that recognized Jesus in a different way, and I could just hear it. There was a woman that came up and goes, that's Jesus. That's Jesus right there. Jesus healed my son. He helped him to walk. And then I heard another woman, that's Jesus. I was blind and he helped me see. That's Jesus. I was hungry and he fed me. That's Jesus. I was lonely and he loved me. And all these people are talking about this, and I'm thinking to myself, who is this person? He doesn't deserve this. He doesn't deserve death. He doesn't deserve what's happened to him. He doesn't deserve the way he's being treated. Someone like Jesus doesn't deserve it. You know who deserves it? It hit me. 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 I've done nothing my whole life but choose me. I've done nothing my whole life but do what I want to do. And I didn't care who it hurt, and I didn't care who it destroyed. My life has always been about me. And I have destroyed people with my words, and I have destroyed people with my hands, and I have done things that I don't think I can ever come back from. It should be me on that cross. It should have been me on that cross. I was the one who was supposed to be there. And I'm just having this crisis right now, seeing all these things play out. I don't even know what to do with these emotions that I've never felt before in my entire life. And I remember I walked up to one of the soldiers. I was like, you made a mistake. You got to get him down. You've made a mistake. And he pushes me away, which, what am I going to do? And I'm just watching Jesus. Jesus, just die. Just let it be over. Jesus, what are you fighting for? And I saw his eyes. They were not the eyes of a broken man. They were the eyes of a man who was carrying something that he chose. They were eyes of purpose. And his face changed, and it was different this time. It wasn't like the first time he talked. And I watched as he pressed into the nails, and he pressed up, and I looked at his face, and it was not a face that had been defeated by death, but I swear to you, it was a face who has just defeated death. And as he pressed in, he said, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. It is finished." I watched as his chest breathed for the last time. And the sky, which up to that point had been clear, instantly became dark. The ground beneath our feet started to shake. And everybody started screaming. And all of a sudden there was this earthquake. It was like the very earth was mourning the death of this man. And I watched as the crowd started to scream and started to run. And I watched as the soldiers were panicking and the captain was trying to figure out what to do. And I'm literally getting pulled away from the crowd. I'm fighting to try to see what's happening. And I'm watching as the captain says, "We got to break the legs of the soldiers, break the soldiers' legs." So they walk over and he breaks the soldiers on the one side. And he walks over to break the soldiers' legs on the other side, because when you break their legs, they collapse and they die. And he comes up to Jesus and he goes to break his legs and he stops. And he goes, "Captain." He goes, "He's already dead." And the captain walks over, he goes, "It's impossible." He says, "Give me that spear." And he takes the spear and he sticks it into Jesus' side. And as he pulls it out, blood and water flow and come all over top of the captain. And he's just standing there looking at his hands. And he's looking at Jesus. His face is completely different. There is chaos all around him. The captain's just staring at Jesus. And I'm trying to get in there because I want to hear what the captain says. And as they start to push me away, I swear I heard him say, surely this is the Son of God." Crowd pushed me down the hill, back into the city. I went home. And I sat at my table and I stared at the wall. And that night I didn't sleep. I didn't know what to do with what I just saw. So that next morning, I packed up and I left Jerusalem. To be honest, I left everything. I bounced around from things for the next couple months, but then I just do what we always do. Just went back to what I knew. I opened up a furniture store. It's like my dad. So I didn't go buy Barabbas anymore, because you can't sell chairs when you have the reputation that I have, so it was Mr. B's. I was getting by, but I couldn't shake what happened. You need to understand something. There was my life before Jesus died, and now here's my life after Jesus died, and I don't know what to do with it. Then one day this guy comes into the shop. Starts asking about my name. He wants to know what the B stands for. And I'm like, "Listen, man, it's just B." He presses. He says, "I know who you are." He goes, "You're Barabbas." I'm like, "All right, here we go." He said, "You were there that day, weren't you?" "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You were there the day Jesus died. Matter of fact, you weren't just there. It was supposed to be you. And he took your place." And I'm like, "Hey, listen, man, I don't know where you're getting your information. I don't know who's telling you what, but I just would really appreciate if you just leave me alone and you walk out of the store. All right, man?" And I start to walk away, and I'm just dealing with these emotions that I'm trying to bury. And as I'm starting to walk away, he says to me, "You know, he's not dead." And I turned around and I got right up in his face. I said, listen, man, you better be really careful about what you say next, because I was there. And you're right, I was supposed to be the man on that cross. And he did take my place. And I saw them beat him, and I saw him carry that cross, and I saw them nail it to it, and I saw him die. So don't you tell me that he's alive, because I saw the whole thing. So you better step out of my face and get out of my life before we have a serious problem. Put his hand on my shoulder. He said, Barabbas, my name's Peter. Because I should have been there that day. Spent 3 years with Jesus. And the day he needed me the most, I abandoned him. And you know, I don't know why we were all surprised. For 3 years, all he ever told us was that he was going to die. That was his promise. He made another promise. He said 3 days later he was going to walk out of a tomb. Now, I didn't believe it. So on Sunday, Mary said the tomb was empty. I ran there because I thought, how in the world did somebody steal his body? And just a couple hours later, I saw him. Barabbas, despite the fact that I wasn't there, Jesus came back for me. He came back for all of us. And I'm here right now because I need you to know that he came back for you. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. But at the same time, it was the truest thing I've ever heard in my life. So in this shop, standing right here, I asked the one who took my place to take my heart. Peter says I got saved. I just know that for the first time since that day, I knew what my life was supposed to be about. So I joined this group that he had. We meet on Tuesdays and Sundays, and aside from the food I have to eat, all the dollars that come into this shop goes towards that. It's been a while since I've talked about this. But I'll make you a deal, man. You say what I've just told you word for word, and you don't got to worry about the tables and chairs, man. It's not important. What's important is the story. People need to know. They need to know that he died. They need to know that he walked out of that tomb. And if he did it for me, if he took my place, man, he could do it for somebody else too.